thank you for agreeing to be a facilitator. This is a huge service that you are offering to the congregation. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, what I'd like to do is go through with you some of the general principles for facilitating today. And then I think we could just invite any questions you have that, as Margaret said, they can be put in the chat and then we can address those. I think you've had a good run with the communal discernment process as we have been using it over these past several months. There are a few general principles that I want to remind you of that are so important. Your role is to see that what is supposed to happen at the home tables happens. And what happens at the consensus table happens. I want to tell you that there will be no warning at the end of each of those sessions that tells you that you have so many minutes left. In this platform, we're not able to do that, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Overall, as a facilitator, you are the guardian of this communal discernment process. That is, you keep reminding the members of your home table and consensus table to listen, to speak, to reflect, to share, all done in a contemplative atmosphere. So what I'd like to do is just go through some general principles of your work, and then we'll go to the schedule and just do a run through of the schedule. So when you are going to meet your home table will be on Monday. The Sunday schedule really doesn't have any role for you as facilitator. We don't go into our home tables and consensus tables until Monday. So let's look at what happens at that first home table conversation. So as facilitator, when you are in that breakout room, you invite every member of the breakout to introduce herself, and then invite someone in that group to be a note keeper or a secretary. That person will simply be the one that will be more vigilant about taking notes on what is being said. Either that same person or another person should be asked to be the timekeeper, so that you want to remind, the timekeeper would remind everyone when you have about 15 minutes left in your home group. So invite everyone to introduce herself, invite someone to be a secretary or note taker, invite someone to be a timekeeper. Then you draw attention to the topic that you're going to be talking about at that home table. So on Monday, it will be the topic of integral ecology. You explain that the conversation will focus on that topic. You'll ask the table to take a couple of moments of quiet reflection, and then you invite each person to speak one at a time on her own response to that discernment question that goes with integral ecology. So each person at that home table will speak before there is any open sharing. So again, your role is to see that each person shares her own response to the question, not going too long. And then at the end of that, you offer each person then a moment to take in what has been shared. So after each sister has spoken once, then you invite shared conversation. You might begin that by, as facilitator, saying, are you noting any similarities or major differences in what people are saying? What seems to be emerging as common? So then you begin to look for what is emerging from the group. And this is in an open sharing. But again, I want to remind you, keep the sharing at a pace that is contemplative so that people have a chance to take in what has been said before moving on and responding. So as you move through that home table conversation, you will be taking notes on what is being said. Everybody might be doing that. When you get to about 15 minutes before the end of that session, then begin to say, what is it that we as a home table agree to take to our respective consensus tables? So you agree as a group on what you will take with you to the next session. Invite every sister or consulting member, sister or associate, to write down exactly what the group has decided to say. And for that, you will be using a form, which I'll explain when we get into the schedule. Everyone will write the same thing on that form. So then after the break, you will move to your consensus table. Now, you as facilitators will remain at the same table. You'll just have a new group with you. That consensus table is composed of someone from 6 other tables. Again, you would invite a moment of quiet. Again, you may invite someone to be a note taker and a timekeeper. You will then invite each person to share what came, the results of her home table. Go around to each person shares what her home table has decided to bring to the consensus table. Here is an important point. Once you have shared, and you as facilitator are also representing your own home table, so you share what came from your home table as well. Once every sister and or associate has shared what came from the home table, you are no longer at that point representing your home table. From now on, the conversation is a new conversation. So now you are moving as a group to try to identify what is emerging as the collective wisdom of your group. So you have that open conversation. The focus or the task of the consensus table is to arrive at what you as a group believe is what you wish to present to the congregation for consideration regarding this topic. Does that make sense? So you are now saying, as a group, this is what we believe is really important, and this is what we want to put forth for this chapter regarding this topic. So your task during this consensus table is to help the group arrive at what is the wisdom of the group concerning that topic. At the end of that conversation, you as facilitator will email the results of your consensus table conversation to Michelle Welter at Nix. So I'm just going to say right now how you might do that. So there are a few possibilities, and I leave this to you, how you wish to do it. You may want to minimize your Zoom screen, open your email, type in the results of your consensus table, and send the email to Michelle at Nix. There is a form for this, and Michelle's email is at the bottom of that form. So one possibility, minimize the Zoom screen, open your email, type the results of your consensus table group, send the email to Michelle. You may also want to simply use another device. If you have a phone, an iPhone or an iPad, you may just want to go to your email on one of those devices and type the email and send it to Michelle. Whatever works for you and is best, do it. The important thing is that the results of your consensus table needs to go to Michelle as soon as possible. So at the end of the consensus table conversation, I would ask you as facilitator to immediately write the response from your group and send it to Michelle. So I think that probably gives us an overview of the process of what's going to happen at both home tables and consensus tables. Now, some guides for you. Be clear about the task when you present it, and I will do this as facilitator. So in a way, you will be reinforcing in your respective small groups, breakout rooms, what I will already have said. So here are some tips. At the end of your home table and at the end of the consensus table, clarify what you have said. Summarize what the group has come to so everybody is clear. If you have someone in your home table or consensus table who is dominating the conversation, Now, some of you will know how to handle this very well because you're probably have done a lot of facilitation. But if that should happen, if you have one person who is really dominating, you might want to say to the person, I can see that others want to contribute. So would you be willing to hold your thought so that we can give others a chance to respond? Something along those lines. So I recall that in some of our past assemblies, in some of the evaluations, there were some of those responders who complained that there were folks in their group who were dominating the conversation. In communal discernment, everybody has equal voice. So you as facilitator need to really be on guard to assure that everyone has adequate time to speak and that no one dominates the group. Then we will move into, on the schedule, as you can see on Thursday, some different things. The acceptance of the audit, the finance report, and then we will move into the second calling of names. You don't have anything to do with that. You are part of the group. Then we have a meal. Now, what's going to happen is between the morning session feedback that you offer to the writers and the time we get to the afternoon, the writers will have now revised the final document based on your feedback, and they will present to the chapter body the final directional statement, which we will simply vote on. We will vote it up or vote it down. It is a 2/3 required vote. I am hoping that you will be so good and that the spirit will be so much at work that that final statement will be a unanimous yes. Remember, you've had ample opportunity for feedback. And so we will vote that statement on Thursday afternoon. That really finishes the chapter of affairs, if you will. Now we move into the beginning of the chapter of election. Okay, so on Friday, we will begin the day with the nominee presentations. The nominees will have recorded their presentations on the evening of Thursday. So those presentations will take place on Friday morning. Each of the nominees will present about 3 to 4 minutes about their own discernment, about their availability, and we have some questions for them. We don't know how long that will take because we don't know exactly how many nominees we will have. So as you can see from the schedule, we've blocked out the whole 2 full morning sessions on that. Once the nominee presentations have been completed, we have the meal break, and then the rest of the day is personal reflection. And we will encourage everyone to use that time for prayer and reflection in preparation for the next day. So on Saturday, now we're back to work that you have to do as facilitator. On Saturday, we will have a home table conversation on the nominees. The home tables will discuss those persons they feel that they have come to want to put forward for elected leadership. Now, you've listened to the nominee presentations. Everyone has had time for an afternoon of reflection and prayer. And perhaps you may want to contact some of those nominees. And there may be things you want to ask them. That's fine. At that home table conversation on Saturday, the home table will develop a list of up to 7 people that they want to, that their table seriously considers, which they will bring to their consensus table. Now, this is really, really important. This is not an elimination list. We are simply trying to get a sense of what names seem to be emerging from the whole. So your home table could talk about a lot of the nominees, but then you as facilitators say, okay, what 7 names are rising to the top for us that we want to take to the consensus table? You will then move to the consensus tables, each member of the home table taking with her the same list. At the consensus table, the first thing would be each person goes around and names the 7 people that have come from her home table. Okay, however, I think that you need to listen to each person one at a time. These are the 7 from my table. Now, again, once those names have been put out, then you as facilitator can begin to then say, okay, what are we hearing, and what do we want to look at here? And then you have an open conversation. No, you're no longer representing your home table. Now you are engaged in a new conversation around who you think may be best suited at this time to serve in elected leadership. And this is the way the form looks. The form will say, these people are the people that our consensus table fully endorse. Everybody agrees, and you list those names. Then you have another line, and it says, these are the people who received a majority of endorsements. And you list those. Again, really important. No names are being eliminated. We are simply trying to get a sense of who is emerging from the body. Again, you as facilitator will send that consensus form to Michelle and to Kim, who will post it. We will invite everyone to look at the post, but it will not stay up. It'll only be there for a short period of time. Everyone has the opportunity then to see from all of the consensus tables what names seem to be emerging from the whole. Once that has happened, again, you have personal reflection time. Those names will be taken off the posting after 2 or 3 hours. We'll know exactly later, but at some point. On August 1st, on Sunday, August 1st, we begin the election. Now, let me just say that in the communal discernment process, we are looking for who is rising as persons that seem to carry the endorsement of the body. However, you and every other member of the chapter who is a fully engaged member has the right to vote for whomever you wish. So this is just showing you who's there. But in the end, the voting is by anonymous ballot, and you vote for whomever you wish. I hope that's clear. We will be using a process called Election Buddy for the election. And we're going to explain a lot about Election Buddy later. So I'm not going to do that. I don't think I'm going to do that at this session. Rather, just for you to know, in Election Buddy, when we begin the election process, it is using email. You will receive, every fully engaged member will receive an email ballot. And you will write in your name. That will be sent back. It will be immediately collated, and the results will be known almost simultaneously. So rather than doing a paper ballot and having tellers who will count the ballots, this will be done by email, and Nix will do that. But that will be explained fully at a later time. You don't really have any other role in that other than what everybody else has. And so there will be a rehearsal for that. So that is your role as facilitator. My advice to you is that don't try to hold everything all together. We're only going to have to do this one day at a time. So at the end of every day of chapter, we will meet with you to go over what happens the next day. So, you know, you don't have to, you're not on your own. So I know this is a lot, and it may seem pretty overwhelming, but we're just going to do it one day at a time. Okay. So I think that's it. Before I move to the questions, Margaret, is there anything that I have left out that you think, or any other member of the committee, that I've missed?
I believe you've been very clear.
Okay.
And
Well,
I think, some of the points that I would make are probably caught in the chat.
okay.
So if people have not had the opportunity to write in a question, or if they would do that now, and Connie, you could probably start.
Okay. So I'm going to go to the first question. I think I did answer this. It's from Gene Williams. And the question is, how many individuals will be at each table? And the answer is there are 7 at a table. And there will be translation, simultaneous translation.
No,
No, sorry.
right now we're looking at having 15 tables. And as Connie said, 7 people at a table. And that would be fully engaged and consulting at the first 3 days of focus areas. In the breakout rooms, it's consecutive translation, not simultaneous. So that's why we need the length of time in the breakout so that the translators can translate. Not every table will have translators or 2 languages, but a good number will, either Portuguese or possibly 2 tables for Spanish translation. We're not going to put Spanish and Portuguese together with English. It would be too complicated.
Okay, just to say too that, and Margaret just said, when we get to the chapter of election, there will be no consulting members at the tables with the fully engaged. There will be separate. Okay, so Judith is asking, what if no one volunteers to be a secretary or a timekeeper? Well, we're going to pray that doesn't happen. But if it does, then it becomes the work of the facilitator. But I think you could just plead with somebody at least to be the timekeeper. And everyone, if no one wants to be the note taker, then it falls to everyone to take notes for themselves. Margaret?
Yeah, I just want to also say that everybody will have this, every facilitator will have the same home table group for those 3 days. So that group can kind of gel. And hopefully we will have those list out to you as we did prior to the assemblies. So perhaps you could work with your group, contact someone, asking, would you be timekeeper? Would you be secretary? And get that done before the chapter starts. With the consulting, like those are going to be different groups. So you won't know, well, hopefully you'll have that list also beforehand. So you'll know, and again, could arrange that prior to, so time is not taken up in the small group for that. Is that correct, Connie?
Yeah. Okay, so I already clarified that the email that you send to your forms goes to Kim Ritter at Nix and also Michelle Welter at Nix. And we'll see that both of those email addresses are at the bottoms of the forms. So Pat Clem is asking, do we use the form and then send that to Michelle and Kim? So here's my experience. If you can use the form and you can write underneath the form questions, then use the form. What I have found in using this process that oftentimes people just don't bother with the form. They just start typing the answers. Doesn't matter as long as you answer the questions that are on the form. So if you can use the form and just save and send, do that. If you would rather just type and not use the form, the only thing is we have to know, if you don't use the form, we have to know your table number so that we know that your table has responded. Margaret?
Yeah, just for those who might be a little more techie, if you have the form open, you can cut and paste the form into an email and type right in the email with the form. And your name would be on the email. So, but they need the table number.
Okay, so I think I answered the next question. Yeah, the form, you can type into it directly, as Margaret said, you could cut and paste.
But it will be a Word document. Yeah.
It will be a Word document. Okay, so Cindy's asking a very good question. What and where is the tab Connie is referring to? So in the platform that Nix is using, there will be named tabs, and I think the tab is going to say consensus posting tab. I think that's what we agreed to say. So when you have the rehearsal, when you are learning how to use this platform with Nix, they will show you where to go. So all you have to do is find, it'll be across the top, consensus posting. I think it's called consensus posting room. And you click on that, and then what will come up will be the consensus responses from all 15 consensus tables. But that will be part of the rehearsal.
Connie?
Margaret?
Yeah, I just want to add to that. Nix is going to develop what they call a schedule page. And it will be our page for our chapter, and those tabs will be clearly on it. And there'll be each day of the chapter, so you'll see what is scheduled and how to view each session or enter each session. Okay? So look for the schedule page.
Is this done all via email? Is that how this is done with them?
Excuse me?
Is this done via email?
Yes.
Okay, okay, thank you.
And the emails will be at the bottom of the papers that get sent to them.
Thank you.
Okay, so the form 3B, which is Goya's question, who gets the results of 3B? This is the three, or the B, all of the B, 1B, 2B, 3B. Those they go to the writers. They don't go for posting.
But Connie, just to be clear, everything goes to Nix.
Right.
We don't send it to the writers. Everything
Yeah.
goes to Nix, okay?
Yeah, I was going to say that
Okay.
those forms go to the writers, so they're not going to be posted in a consensus posting room.
Right.
Rather, they go to Nix, and then Nix will send them to the writers.
Correct.
So the writers can start their work. So Goya, it's not just 3B, it's also 1B, 2B, 3B. All right. So Liz, only the question is, does everyone vote or only the fully engaged? Only the fully engaged are voting members. So only the fully engaged, Margaret?
Yeah, and that's another piece that we'll do a roll call before we move into that process.
Can I just ask, all the voting on the statements
Right.
are everyone at the table, right? The
No,
voting, the two-thirds voting that we want to carry our up or down vote for the consensus of the final statement. Is that everyone at the table?
no, that is only fully engaged members.
So on Thursday, that is only fully engaged vote on the final statements.
That's correct.
Correct.
Thank you.
And
Thank
that's Liz, that's when I just said, prior to taking that vote, we will do a roll call.
Okay, got it.
So everyone knows those who are called vote.
Okay, so a clarification, and I think we did answer this, that on Saturday, the home and consensus tables will be composed of fully engaged voting members only.
And the consulting sisters and associates have received emails letting them know this.
Question is, how do we minimize the Zoom screen? And will the forms be somewhere we can fill them out directly and send them as an attachment, perhaps? You will receive all of the forms by email, so you will have them. Now, you could pull them up and have them on your home screen on your computer, so that then when it's time to complete that, you simply have to open that response form and fill it out. And as Margaret says, you can then send it as an attachment to Nix. Now, to get to your home screen, though, you will have to minimize the Zoom screen. So if you're using an Apple, a Mac computer, you minimize by going to the top of the screen and clicking on the yellow circle. That will minimize the screen. And if you have a Mac, you might want to do that right now so you see that. So you minimize by clicking on the yellow dot, which is at the top left of the document. Then that will minimize the screen. And when you want to get back to the full screen, on the minimize screen, you just hit the little arrow at the bottom right, and that puts you back on a full screen. Now, if you're using a PC, Margaret, are you using a PC?
I am. I can
Okay, so
explain.
explain the PC.
Okay. First of all, if you have your Zoom on full screen, you need to, in the upper right-hand corner, exit full screen. Once you've exited full screen, you should see the white bar at the top. And if you click, there's again, in the upper right corner, there's a straight line. There's like two little boxes and an X. Click on the two little boxes, and that will minimize your screen. So it's like half the size of your desktop. Now, if you have your files or your file folder with your different handouts, let me just share my screen so I can show you this. Okay, so I've minimized my screen. If you have your folder with your different handouts, you can just go and click on it, and you can type right in the handout and then save that and email it to Kim and Michelle. And if anybody needs any extra help, we can make people available to do one-on-one. Okay.
If you're not familiar with doing that, you might just want to try it a few times and to get familiar with how to do that. So
Another suggestion, Connie, that you mentioned, if people have, let's say, a desktop and a laptop available, or a desktop and an iPad, or a desktop and a Kindle, that you could have the documents open on the second device. And you could be typing on that and email it from there. So that's another option. Some people do have maybe an iPad or Kindle or some other device, a tablet available. Okay, where are we up to?
I just want to check out
Odette.
here. I'm just, hold on a second. Okay, So Odette is asking, regarding the conversation on the focus areas, will there be only one statement brought from the home table to consensus table, and then only one statement presented from the consensus table to the entire group? And the answer is no. If you look at the response forms, you can write up to 4 responses.
Right.
Anything you want to say. They don't. And again, and this is so Odette, thank you so much for writing that, because when you are developing these, they're really basically ideas. 4 ideas, 4 possible direction pieces. Don't get caught with the words, because it's the writers who have that responsibility. What the writers need is, what are your ideas? What is the substance of what you really think is important? So you have up to 4 possible things that you want to say regarding focus area 1 or 2 or 3. I hope that answers your question, Odette. So the next question, on Thursday, will the writers be using Form 3B and then the final statement? The writers will be, for your response, the first part of Thursday will be to use Form 3B to offer your feedback regarding leadership. Then the writers will present also a first draft of a final statement. And your response form for that will be response form 4. So that home table that day on Thursday will be completing 2 response forms, 3B on leadership, and 4, a kind of a feedback on the whole statement. So Helen, where will the table numbers be? So at the top of all of the forms, your table number is, you will have to put your table number in there. Margaret?
Yeah, and again, on the schedule page that Nix will create, the tables will be numbered, so the participants will see you are at table number, and they will know what table they're at. Plus, you'll have the list. That'll be on the schedule page.
Okay. The question here is there a time after the chapter of affairs that additional nominees will be added? And the response is really no, because you have already done a calling that we did during the assembly. And we also have a second calling for during the chapter itself. So those are the 2 times when nominees may be added to the nominations list. So given the integrity of the discernment process, we don't see another time when that would happen.
But that second calling is on Thursday. If you look at the schedule at 11:45, the second calling of names.
So that will be, Lucy, after the chapter has already dealt with all of the materials. So that calling would be then. So if there are people, that would be the appropriate time.
Thank you.
Okay. So
Thank you.
I'm going to go back now to Pat Shirley.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh, good. All right. So one of the challenges that we had in the assemblies, not having the time. Now we'll have a timer, which will help us. But sometimes, say we're trying to get the work done and we need just a minute or 2 more, but we don't have any control. You know, in a real life situation, people can stand at the table and kind of finish up. But the way this works in Zoom is immediately we go to the main assembly or to the next thing. Is there any way that the facilitators can pull their group together or, finish that kind of work? Or do we just have to really work hard to be on time?
Margaret, you want to take a stab at that before I do? Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say that this is different, working with Nix. They will not automatically close the breakout. It's not going to close as we did on the assembly Zoom calls. There won't be that 10 minutes, please work on your closing statement, 2 minutes left. That's why you need a timekeeper, all right? But the important thing, Pat, is when the consensus group is writing their form or coming to their consensus, the consensus form needs to go to Michelle and Kim as soon as you can get it, because they have to send it to the translators who need to get it to the writers. Okay, so there is a time factor in this. It's not as if you can hold on to it or try to regroup in the evening and finish this up. Things have to move to Nix to get it to the writers so the writers can work. They have to work in the evening on it. Connie, anything
Yes,
else?
Pat, I think you highlight the importance of your role as facilitator to be aware of how much time you're spending on anything and to keep it moving and to really challenge the members of your group to speak briefly and to the point and not to take up more time than is necessary. And sometimes, and I have just as by way of example, sometimes people have it, they're excited about an idea and they want to present it and they don't know when to stop, and they keep repeating it over and over again. So I think your role as facilitator, you have to say to the person, Mary, thank you. I think we understand your point, but for the sake of giving everyone opportunity, I'm going to ask you if you can just let us move on. I just think you have to exercise those kinds of controls over the group, always being aware of the time. We've given what we think is an adequate amount, but you just have to really be strong facilitators.
Also,
Thank
the breakouts are smaller. Sometimes the assembly had 12 to 15 people, but they are groups of 7 at this point. Okay.
So you raise a point though. So given the schedule that the home tables meet and they have about an hour and 15 minutes, maybe a little bit less than that, before going into a meal break. Can that breakout room stay open, Margaret, or do you know?
That's the whole thing. I think they can stay open because there's nobody to pull them out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And I just say this because we were on a Zoom, the Franciscan Federation conference, some of us. And again, we were in breakouts and there was no timekeeper. And I was the facilitator. And in the training, I don't remember them saying, you need to keep watch of the time. We went overtime. And so the group was late getting back to the next session. So it's important that you have a timekeeper. But no, the rooms, I believe, stay open until people leave.
So you may have some wiggle room with the home table if it spills over into the mealtime.
Right.
Now, the consensus table may not, because
Right,
unless you go overtime, you would be missing the closing prayer.
right.
But we do need that to be emailed. So if that happens, you have to pray on your own.
Well, thank you. That helps.
Well, and I know that Michelle and Kim will have the names and emails of all the facilitators. So if they don't get your paper, you'll probably be hearing from them.
One other question about, are we electing for 3 years or 4 years? I don't think there has been a change in the length of the service of elected leadership, so it's a 4-year
Right.
term. So are there any other questions?
I'm just thinking, when we were talking about not being cut off if we're in like a home group, home table, there must be a process that's being used to move us at some point into those rooms, the tables, right? I mean, how do we get from Zoom to our groups? Is there a process like we've had when we've been doing it? You've sent everybody to the rooms. How do we know how to do that?
Just to say, Cindy, you are going to have a rehearsal sessions with Nix, and some of those questions, all of those, your questions will be answered.
Okay. All right.
But in fact, you will go, you're the one who controls that. And there will be on your form, a place that says, go to session 1, and you click on that. So you put yourself
Oh,
in the various rooms at various places.
okay. I'll wait for the
Right. Again, it goes back to, remember the term, your schedule page, your chapter schedule page. And everybody will have their chapter schedule page. And that's where you move back and forth from prayer to, let's say, the presentation or Connie's direction, and then you move into the breakout. It'll say you're in breakout number and enter or view session, however they do it.
Yeah, you don't have that schedule right now. They haven't put that together yet. You'll get it when it's done.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Judith?
Connie, there's a question in the chat too.
Okay.
So do we, when we're using Zoom with Nix, right? We don't have to do anything particular except just to be able to get into Zoom. And then Nix will connect through Zoom?
Actually, we are using both their platform and Zoom.
Okay,
So again, when we're using Zoom, they will explain, the process. And when we're not using Zoom, they will explain the process. So
okay,
you'll know.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's a webinar program and Zoom. But again, the Zoom is not, they won't put people into the groups. You have to go onto the schedule page, click that session.
So when will the rehearsal with Nix take place? And I'm not sure exactly when that's going to happen, but that's usually happens about 1 week out
Right.
from the chapter itself. Doing it any sooner is not going to be helpful because you won't remember. So it's their experience that it is best to do it about 1 week before the chapter begins and go through everything with you. So you'll have it fresh in your mind. And then I think they do a tutorial the day before as well.
When each morning of the chapter, you will receive an email from Michelle Welter reminding you to come on to the chapter. And that will bring you to your schedule page. But on that email reminder, there will be the tutorials. You can go back and click and, there'll be information there to help you. And also, I believe they will also email out the handouts again, if at the last minute, somebody doesn't have it or forgets it. And that, I believe, also copies attachment or a link to the handouts will be on our schedule page. So they're making everything there on the schedule page for us.
So, this is going to be, you'll do fine. Everything will be good. Remember, you only have to do one day at a time.
And I just want to give kudos to the liturgy committee. We're doing something new. So this is a whole new way of doing it. And translators, facilitators, everybody, thank you.
No more questions?
I'd just like to say you all seem so calm. So thank you for that. And thank you for the support. And
So if that's what you're talking about, Pat, after the consensus table agrees on those names and they're sent to Nix, Nix will post them in that chapter posting room. So after your consensus table has finished its work and you've sent all of that, then the rest of that particular day, you're free. So you will go later and you'll receive a notification when that posting is up. And once it's there, all you have to do then is to go in and click on that consensus posting room, and all those names will be there and you can read them. The reason we don't leave them up for a long period of time is because of the sensitivity of what we're doing. And we simply don't want to leave those names there a long time.
Connie, could I say something to Pat? I think that it's important to understand that we're only in Zoom when we're in the home and consensus tables. The rest of the time, we're looking at the webinar, which will have all of the tabs and things we need. We won't be in Zoom the whole chapter.
Good, Pat. Thanks. That's good. Margaret Mary, I think, am I seeing your hand up?
I've had the experience where when you finish the consensus tables or the home table, you leave, at the bottom of the page, you leave that Zoom call. You leave.
Right.
And that will bring you right to the table. It should bring you right to the table, the screen that says the schedule.
Now, just to say, we will have another kind of dry run on the 23rd. We're going to have another facilitator meeting just to be sure we're all clear. And then, as I said, at the end of every day of chapter, we'll meet to go over the next day so that you are prepared.
And that would be with the facilitators that are assigned. So we have 29 facilitators. So for the home and for the focus days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, only 15 facilitators will be assigned. So those would be the 15 that would meet with Connie. And then on the on Saturday, I believe we would have 12 tables because it's only fully engaged. So it would be the facilitators. And I'm hoping that we have a large enough group that people don't have to, that only those who are assigned can meet with Connie, okay?
I'm not going to be on for 5 whole days.
There's a possibility.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But you'll let us know what days we're on.
Yeah, well, you'll get the schedules and stuff. One of the things I talked to Connie about is that those who are nominees, I'm going to try not to schedule for that Saturday when the nominees are discussed.
Okay.
Because the nominees shouldn't have to facilitate. But again, it all depends on how many facilitators we have available. Okay.
Thank you.
So if you excuse me while I just ask,
Sure.
I'm just wondering, what will the transition from the end of chapter of elections look like to, okay, the chapter of affairs, the chapter of elections, seeing that this is the first time we'll be on this platform and you had previous experience. Would you just tell us what would that look like?
Gwen, I'm really not understanding your question. The chapter of affairs ends really on the 29th, when we have completed the 3 topics.
Right.
And so once we've approved the directional statement on the afternoon of July 29th, the rest of that day really is for personal reflection. The next morning, the July 30th, with the nominee presentations, that's when we begin the chapter of election.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what your question is.
All right, here's the thing. When we used to have in-person chapters, I know it's difficult for you to explain it, but when we were used to the in-person chapters, like we had time to socialize and so forth, I'm just wondering if Nix could provide a space for us to have that kind of time with each other.
Not necessarily between those 2 days, but they are, I think Margaret's going to speak to that. Go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things Kim has mentioned, that they're going to schedule some Zoom lunches. So during that lunch break time, anyone who wants to come on, it won't be every day. They'll let us know what days it'll be. And it's for those who wish. Make sure you have your lunch ready, be at your Zoom camera. They'll break us into small groups that you can chat. And then after a while, they might break in, reassign the groups. But definitely nothing for that evening of Thursday, July 29th, because of the recording that has to be done by the nominees. And I know Kim said that they're going to be busy trying to process the videos and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you. Be great. We are going to have a wonderful chapter, and little did we know when we chose this theme, behold, I am doing something new. Listen, we had no idea how that was really going to unfold. And we are really doing wonderful new things, and it's going to be great. And thank you so much for your own part in helping that to occur. So I'll see you again. We'll have another training on July 23rd, and then we will begin the chapter. So have a great day. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll be seeing you soon. Okay.